Let's move to Croydon, shall we? A really diverse part of London. Concerns have been raised there about vaccine uptake. Now, Ima Miah is the CEO of the Asian Resource Centre in Croydon, which has been tackling misinformation about the vaccine. Ima Miah, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. You would have heard what Nick was saying there, and people perhaps just needing a little bit more time to digest information or assess information. Is that what you think is going on?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Naga. Really enjoy listening to you.
Thanks.
And yes, absolutely. We've actually, this on the 17th will be our 11th COVID community engagement session, talking questions and answers from the public to medical professionals and clinicians. So it will be our 11th, and you can see that's quite a lot of events that we've done. We've already reached over 1,000 unique people, but we've had many people come back again because they've had so many questions. We found largely that there's three categories of concerns around the hesitancy. So first of all, there was all that myth busting stuff we had to do. So there were myths around, why did this happen? Where did this virus come from? Was it something intentional? Was it something targeted at the BME community? Was it something to get rid of old people because they don't matter? All sorts of things. We even heard things like 5G being, something that could have contributed towards the virus spread. And then it was around the testing and the efficacy. So the hesitancy around basically how many BME people have been tested. If BME people are mostly affected, has the testing been the ratio of testing been equivalent to that? Why is there an increase between the time of the first vaccine and the second vaccine when actually the people who created the vaccine said a certain time and the government changed it to longer? Why is that happening? And then really about the safety and the efficacy, like I said, and the lack of transparency.
Why are these concerns any different from someone who's not part of an ethnic minority? Because those questions are being asked by everyone, especially at the beginning of the vaccine rollout and the beginning of the approvals.
Yeah, I think the question goes back to the disproportionate impact on BAME communities in the first place. How did that happen? A lot of people said it was because of social and economic inequalities, because of racism, because of the way that Black and minority ethnic people have been treated over time, that the health inequalities came about in the first place. So when you start from a position of why did this happen disproportionately to one community? And then everything after that, unfortunately, gets to a position of questioning, well, actually, is that just a continuation? If you test them first, the BAME community, well, why are you testing us first? Is it because you want to see if it works? If you test us last, then it's a case of, well, why are you testing us last if we're the ones most affected? So I think the government's in a very difficult position here.
What about age groups? Because often in these communities, the older members of those societies are getting their information from younger people. So what information is coming through? I mean, my assumption is of younger people who are on social media, they have access to all sorts of information, so can kind of balance it out. But that's not necessarily the case.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the one thing to really remember is that the BME community is not a homogenized group. There are many different. There are language differences, there are cultural differences, there are social norms that are different, and then there are the family unit, which is different. So what we're finding, particularly within the Asian community, is there are gatekeepers to within the family unit. So some of the information that the older members of the family might be getting, particularly where there's language barriers. So I can give you one example. For example, one of the communities that we've been working with a lot is the Sylheti. The Bangladeshi Sylheti speaking community. And Sylheti, of course, is a language that doesn't have an alphabet. They use a different written language from what the oral language is. So there are some people within that community who don't actually, read the language that they're speaking. So what happens is they get their information from family members. So there may be children, there may be, nephews, nieces, and grandchildren who are giving their version of the story, and older people are basing their decisions on that.
I understand. Thank you. Ima Miah, CEO of the Asian Resource Centre in Croydon, thank you for explaining what's been going on with the people you're talking to as you try to tackle misinformation about the vaccine. Let's talk to Dr.